The cosmic inflation bubbles. During the earliest moments after the Big Bang, space expanded at unimaginable speeds in a process called cosmic inflation. This rapid expansion wasn't uniform across all regions of space. Different areas inflated at varying rates, creating distinct pockets or bubbles within the expanding cosmic fabric. Each bubble represents a separate universe with its own unique physical laws and constants. While our universe operates under specific rules for gravity, electromagnetism, and nuclear forces, other bubble universes might function according to completely different principles. In some bubbles, gravity might repel rather than attract. In others, time might flow backward, or particles might behave according to rules we cannot fathom. These bubble universes exist beyond our ability to observe or interact with them directly. They occupy the same cosmic space but remain isolated from each other by the fundamental structure of space-time itself. Each bubble contains its own galaxies, stars, planets, and possibly forms of life that evolved under entirely different physical conditions. The mathematics of cosmic inflation suggests that countless such universes exist, making our reality just one among an infinite collection of cosmic bubbles. The theory gains credibility from observations of the cosmic microwave background radiation, the afterglow of the Big Bang that still permeates space. Subtle variations in this radiation match predictions made by cosmic inflation theory, suggesting that the rapid expansion process actually occurred as theoretical models describe. The double sun anomaly. Across the globe, people have captured footage of what appears to be two suns hanging in the sky simultaneously. These aren't simple camera tricks or digital manipulations. These are documented optical phenomena that occur under specific atmospheric conditions, creating what researchers call superior mirages that shouldn't be possible according to conventional physics. Jim Kerr, an astronomer at the University of Illinois, has studied these double sun manifestations extensively. His research reveals that while traditional mirages occur when light particles bend through varying air densities, these double sun events display characteristics that don't match known optical principles. The secondary sun appears alongside the original, rather than above or below it, suggesting something far more complex than simple light refraction. What makes these sightings particularly intriguing is their consistency across different geographical locations and time periods. Historical records from Flemish astronomer Marcel Menard describe identical phenomena with remarkable precision, documenting observations that match modern sightings down to the smallest details. The mathematical precision of these recurring events suggests we might be witnessing glimpses of parallel realities where our sun exists in slightly different positions. The warning. Security footage from around the world has captured temporal displacement events that defy explanation. In one particularly compelling case, surveillance footage shows two nearly identical men walking down a street at night. Both individuals display similar physical characteristics, clothing, and walking patterns, but their behavior suggests something extraordinary is occurring beneath the surface of this seemingly ordinary encounter. The trailing figure approaches the leading man and delivers a precise shoulder tap at the exact moment needed to prevent a potentially fatal accident. A metal object swings into the space where the first man would have been standing, missing him by mere inches. What makes this footage remarkable isn't the near miss itself, but the supernatural timing and apparent foreknowledge displayed by the warning individual. Analysis of the footage reveals behavioral patterns that suggest the second figure possessed advanced knowledge of the impending danger. His movement patterns show no reaction to the approaching threat, no backward glance, no self-preservation instinct. Instead, he moves with the purposeful confidence of someone who has experienced this exact sequence of events before. The precision of his timing and his immediate departure after delivering the warning create a compelling case for temporal intervention from an alternate timeline. Real quick, if you're learning something new from this video, be sure to like and drop a comment with your favorite. It helps us to spread this info to those who need to hear it most. Also subscribe and hit the bell so you won't miss what we reveal next. Trust me, there's a whole lot more hidden. Now back to it. The Mandela memory rift. Collective memory displacement, where large populations share identical false memories about historical events, entertainment, and cultural references, has baffled researchers for years. This phenomenon, known as the Mandela effect, suggests that groups of people might be accessing memories from parallel timelines where events unfolded differently. The most documented example involves one of cinema's most quoted lines, where millions of people remember hearing dialogue that doesn't match the actual recorded version. The precision of these shared false memories and their consistency across different demographic groups suggests something more systematic than simple misremembering. The fact that these collective memories often involve specific details that would be impossible to fabricate independently indicates potential dimensional crossover effects. What makes these memory discrepancies particularly compelling is their appearance in popular culture references, parodies, and derivative works that seem to acknowledge the misremembered versions rather than the documented originals. This suggests that creative works might be unconsciously accessing alternate timeline information where these events actually occurred as remembered. The Non-Euclidean building. Architectural impossibilities have been photographed in locations worldwide, buildings that violate spatial geometry, creating structures that couldn't exist within our three-dimensional framework. These architectural anomalies display construction techniques and spatial relationships that suggest they're partially existing in alternate dimensional spaces. Witnesses describe entering these buildings and finding interior spaces that are vastly larger than the external dimensions could accommodate. Rooms connect in ways that violate basic geometric principles, with corridors leading to spaces that should overlap with other structures, but somehow maintain separate existence. Stairways ascend or descend for distances that exceed the building's apparent height or foundation depth. Photography of these locations reveals subtle distortions in perspective and lighting that suggest the structures exist partially outside normal three-dimensional space. Camera equipment often malfunctions when attempting to document these buildings, producing images with impossible angles, recursive spaces, or regions that appear to fold back on themselves in ways that shouldn't be photographically possible. Professional architects and engineers who have examined these structures report feeling disoriented and unable to create accurate blueprints or measurements. Their instruments provide conflicting readings, and attempts to map the interior spaces result in diagrams that contradict themselves. The buildings seem to actively resist documentation, as if they exist in a dimensional state that our measurement tools cannot properly assess. Biology from another timeline. Living organisms have been documented displaying characteristics that suggest they originated in alternate evolutionary timelines. Researchers have discovered creatures that possess anatomical features, behavioral patterns, and genetic sequences that don't match any known evolutionary pathways within our dimensional framework. These biological anomalies appear suddenly in ecosystems where they have no evolutionary predecessors, displaying perfectly adapted characteristics for environments they theoretically never experienced. Their genetic material contains sequences that don't exist in our dimensional gene pool, yet they function seamlessly within our biological systems. DNA analysis reveals coding patterns that suggest development under different environmental pressures and evolutionary constraints. Marine biologists have discovered deep-sea organisms with sensory organs designed for detecting energy spectrums that don't exist in our ocean environments. These creatures navigate using electromagnetic fields that aren't present in our dimensional waters, yet they thrive in deep ocean trenches where such navigation would be impossible. Their behavior patterns suggest they're responding to environmental cues that exist in parallel dimensional versions of our oceans. Entomologists have documented insect species that display collective intelligence patterns far exceeding anything observed in our dimensional insect populations. These creatures coordinate complex behaviors across vast distances without any known communication methods, suggesting they're accessing information networks that span multiple dimensional planes. Their decision-making processes demonstrate knowledge of environmental changes before those changes become detectable through our scientific instruments. Botanical researchers have encountered plant species that photosynthesize using light spectrums that don't reach Earth's surface, yet they flourish in locations where conventional photosynthesis should be impossible. These plants display growth patterns that violate basic botanical principles, developing root systems that extend into spatial dimensions beyond our three-dimensional framework. Their cellular structures contain organelles that serve no identifiable function within our biological systems, yet are essential for the plant's survival. The most compelling evidence comes from paleontological discoveries that reveal fossil records inconsistent with established evolutionary timelines. These fossils display anatomical features that suggest the organisms lived under different gravitational conditions, atmospheric compositions, and environmental pressures than have ever existed on Earth. The preservation methods used to create these fossils involve crystallization processes that don't occur naturally in our dimensional geology. Microbiologists studying these dimensional crossover organisms have discovered cellular mechanisms that operate using energy sources unavailable in our reality. These microscopic life forms process nutrients through metabolic pathways that require elements not found in our periodic table, yet they thrive when introduced to our laboratory environments. Their reproductive cycles follow patterns that suggest they're synchronized with temporal rhythms that don't exist in our dimensional time stream. The implications of these biological anomalies extend far beyond simple evolutionary curiosities. If organisms from alternate dimensions can successfully integrate into our ecosystems, it suggests that the barriers between parallel realities are far more permeable than previously imagined. These creatures serve as living proof that dimensional crossover events occur regularly, bringing elements from alternate evolutionary pathways into our reality. The Brane worlds and string theory. String theory describes fundamental particles not as point-like objects, but as tiny vibrating strings existing in multiple dimensions beyond the three spatial dimensions we experience. These extra dimensions remain hidden from our perception because they curl up into spaces so small that we cannot detect them with current technology. The mathematics of string theory requires additional spatial dimensions to function properly. While we experience length, width, height, and time, string theory predicts that reality actually contains several more dimensions folded into microscopic structures at every point in space. These hidden dimensions determine how strings vibrate, which in turn determines the properties of particles and forces we observe in our universe. Different configurations of these extra dimensions could produce entirely different sets of physical laws. Each arrangement represents a parallel dimension, where particles behave according to alternative rules. Some configurations might produce universes where gravity operates differently, where electromagnetic forces have different strengths, or where entirely new types of particles exist. The vast number of possible arrangements suggests countless parallel dimensions with diverse physical properties. String theory also introduces the concept of brane worlds, where our entire universe exists on a multidimensional membrane floating in a higher dimensional space called the bulk. Other parallel universes could exist on separate branes nearby, invisible to us because light and matter cannot travel between branes. These parallel brane worlds would evolve independently, developing their own galaxies, stars, and potentially life forms according to the physical laws encoded in their dimensional structure. The anthropic principle emerges naturally from string theory's multiple dimensional framework. Among the countless possible configurations of extra dimensions, only certain arrangements produce conditions suitable for life. We find ourselves in one such configuration not because it was specially designed, but because we can only exist in dimensions that permit our existence. The parallel dimensions where life cannot develop remain unobserved, because no conscious beings evolved there to witness them. The 72-second radio signal. In 1977, astronomers detected an intense radio transmission lasting 72 seconds. The signal's frequency and characteristics didn't match any known natural astronomical phenomena, leading to decades of speculation about its origin. The signal's properties were so unusual that conventional explanations involving stars, galaxies, or even human technology seemed inadequate. Its narrow frequency band, high intensity, and brief duration suggested an artificial source, but no terrestrial or known extraterrestrial technology could account for its specific characteristics. The signal appeared once and never repeated, adding to its mysterious nature. Some researchers propose that such anomalous signals might represent communication attempts from parallel dimensions. If the barriers between realities occasionally weaken, or if dimensional boundaries overlap in certain regions of space, information from parallel universes might briefly leak into our dimension. These interdimensional transmissions would appear as inexplicable signals that don't conform to any known physical processes in our universe. The mathematical analysis of mysterious radio phenomena reveals patterns that could indicate dimensional interference. Computer simulations of parallel universe interactions predict that information exchange between dimensions might produce precisely the types of signals that astronomers have detected. The brief, intense, and non-repeating nature of these transmissions matches theoretical predictions for interdimensional communication attempts. Advanced radio telescopes continue monitoring space for similar anomalous signals, hoping to detect additional evidence of parallel dimensional activity. Each mysterious transmission provides data that scientists can analyze for patterns indicating non-conventional origins. The accumulation of such signals could eventually provide compelling evidence that parallel dimensions actively interact with our reality through electromagnetic phenomena. The deja vu effect. The phenomenon of deja vu represents an experience where people feel certain they have lived through identical situations before, despite knowing logically that the current experience is unique. Traditional explanations for deja vu involve memory errors, neural misfiring, or pattern recognition mistakes. However, these conventional theories fail to account for the specific qualities that make deja vu experiences so distinctive. The sensation involves not just familiarity, but precise recognition of upcoming events, conversations, and environmental details that haven't yet occurred in the current timeline. A parallel dimension explanation suggests that deja vu occurs when consciousness briefly synchronizes with alternative versions of ourselves in parallel realities. If multiple versions of our lives play out simultaneously across different dimensions, occasional alignment between these parallel experiences might create the uncanny sensation of having lived through identical situations before. The feeling of certainty about what will happen next could reflect actual memory of how the same scenario unfolded in a parallel dimension. This consciousness-based connection to parallel dimensions implies that human awareness might naturally span multiple realities simultaneously. Our normal perception focuses on just one-dimensional stream, but under certain conditions we might become conscious of parallel experiences occurring in alternative versions of our lives. Deja vu episodes could represent moments when the barriers between dimensional awareness temporarily dissolve. Research into consciousness and quantum mechanics suggests that human awareness might indeed operate according to quantum principles that naturally connect to multiple dimensional states. Studies of brain activity during deja vu episodes reveal unusual patterns of neural synchronization that don't occur during normal conscious experiences. These distinctive brainwave signatures could indicate temporary access to information existing across parallel dimensional boundaries. The quantum computer discoveries. Quantum computers operate by manipulating quantum states that exist in superposition, simultaneously exploring multiple computational pathways before collapsing into final answers. The computational power derives from accessing quantum states that classical physics suggests should be impossible, leading some researchers to propose that quantum computers actually perform calculations across parallel dimensions. When quantum computers solve complex problems, they appear to evaluate far more possibilities than their physical components should allow. The machines somehow explore computational pathways that exceed their apparent processing capacity, suggesting they access resources existing beyond conventional three-dimensional space. Each quantum calculation might represent collaboration between parallel versions of the same computer operating in alternative dimensions. Experimental results from quantum computing research reveal anomalies that support parallel dimensional involvement. Quantum computers occasionally produce solutions that require computational steps exceeding their theoretical capabilities, as if external processing power contributed to the calculations. These impossible results could indicate successful communication with parallel dimensional versions of the same quantum system. The implications for future technology development are staggering. If quantum computers actually access parallel dimensions during operation, then advancing quantum technology could eventually enable direct communication with alternative realities. Future quantum systems might allow us to exchange information, share resources, or coordinate activities with parallel versions of human civilization existing in adjacent dimensions. Military and intelligence agencies have reportedly begun investigating quantum computing applications for intelligence gathering across parallel dimensions. Classified research programs allegedly explore whether quantum systems can access information from parallel timelines where historical events unfolded differently. The ability to observe alternative versions of political developments, military conflicts, or technological advancement could provide unprecedented strategic advantages. The scientific evidence for parallel dimensions continues accumulating across multiple fields of research. From cosmic observations revealing inexplicable voids to quantum experiments demonstrating entanglement across vast distances, reality keeps revealing properties that point beyond conventional three-dimensional existence. Mathematical frameworks developed to describe these phenomena consistently predict the existence of multiple, interconnected realities operating according to different physical laws and containing alternative versions of cosmic history. These discoveries force us to confront uncomfortable questions about the fundamental nature of existence itself. What we perceive as solid, unchanging reality might actually represent just one frequency in an infinite spectrum of parallel experiences. The implications stretch far beyond academic curiosity, touching the very core of what it means to be human in a universe that operates according to principles we're only beginning to understand. The intersection of consciousness and parallel dimensions reveals disturbing possibilities about the nature of free will and personal identity. If every decision we make creates branches leading to alternative realities, then countless versions of ourselves exist across parallel dimensions, each living out different choices and experiencing alternative outcomes. The person you are today represents just one path among infinite possibilities, while other versions pursue different careers, form different relationships, and face entirely different challenges in dimensions beyond our awareness. This branching consciousness theory suggests that major life decisions don't simply determine our single timeline, but create entirely new dimensional branches where alternative choices play out simultaneously. The job you didn't take, the person you didn't marry, the risks you didn't pursue all continue existing in parallel realities where different versions of yourself made opposite decisions. These alternative selves evolve independently, developing personalities and memories that diverge increasingly from your current experience. Medical research has documented cases where individuals report sudden access to knowledge, skills, or memories they never acquired through conventional learning. Some patients recovering from severe injuries display abilities they previously lacked, speak languages they never studied, or possess detailed knowledge about subjects they never encountered. Conventional neuroscience struggles to explain these phenomena through brain damage or recovered memories alone. A parallel dimensional explanation suggests that severe trauma or altered brain states might occasionally allow consciousness to access information from alternative versions of ourselves. During medical emergencies, near-death experiences, or profound psychological stress, the barriers maintaining dimensional separation could weaken, permitting temporary merger with parallel selves who develop different knowledge and abilities. These individuals return to normal consciousness carrying information that originated in alternative realities. The phenomenon extends beyond individual cases to affect entire communities during shared traumatic experiences. Survivors of major disasters sometimes report collective memories of events that didn't occur in our timeline, but match alternative outcomes that might have unfolded in parallel dimensions. These shared false memories suggest that extreme circumstances can create temporary dimensional bleeding that affects multiple consciousnesses simultaneously. Advanced brain imaging studies reveal unusual neural activity patterns during these episodes that don't match any known neurological conditions. The affected brain regions show connectivity signatures resembling quantum entanglement rather than classical neural firing patterns. This quantum-like brain activity could indicate direct interface with parallel dimensional information sources, rather than conventional memory retrieval or imagination. The discovery of parallel dimensions fundamentally challenges traditional concepts of death and consciousness continuation. If our awareness naturally spans multiple dimensional states, then physical death in one reality might not terminate consciousness, but simply shift focus to parallel versions of ourselves continuing to exist in alternative dimensions. This possibility transforms death from absolute ending into dimensional transition between different aspects of ongoing existence. Near-death experiences consistently report encounters with deceased individuals who provide information unavailable through conventional means. These experiences often include accurate details about future events, hidden information, or knowledge possessed only by the deceased persons encountered during the experience. Conventional explanations involving hallucination or false memory fail to account for the verifiable accuracy of information received during these episodes. A parallel dimensional framework explains near-death experiences as temporary expansion of consciousness beyond single-dimensional awareness. During clinical death or severe medical crisis, normal dimensional barriers might dissolve, allowing awareness to access parallel realities where deceased individuals continue existing in alternative forms. These encounters would involve genuine interaction with continuing consciousness rather than psychological projection or wishful thinking. Research into consciousness persistence across parallel dimensions suggests that individual identity might be far more robust and enduring than biological death implies. If consciousness naturally operates across multiple dimensional states, then what we consider permanent death affects only one-dimensional expression, while parallel versions continue developing in alternative realities. The grief and loss experienced in our dimension coexists with ongoing relationships, continuing in parallel dimensional frameworks. This expanded understanding of consciousness and death creates profound implications for ethics, meaning, and human purpose. If every individual exists across multiple parallel dimensions simultaneously, then actions affecting one person ripple across countless alternative versions of their existence. The responsibility for our choices extends beyond immediate consequences to include effects propagating across parallel dimensional boundaries. The technological applications of parallel dimensional access could revolutionize every aspect of human civilization. Energy systems might tap into dimensional boundaries where different physical laws permit more efficient power generation. Transportation could exploit dimensional shortcuts, allowing instantaneous travel between distant locations by briefly entering parallel spaces where distance operates according to alternative rules. Medical applications might access parallel dimensions where human biology developed differently, learning from alternative evolutionary pathways that produced enhanced healing abilities, disease resistance, or longevity. Studying parallel versions of ourselves could reveal genetic modifications, biological processes, or medical treatments unavailable in our dimensional framework, but routine and alternative realities where human development followed different courses. Scientific research could benefit enormously from collaboration with parallel dimensional versions of the same experiments. Alternative realities where different scientific discoveries occurred first could provide solutions to problems that remain unsolved in our dimension. The accumulated knowledge across all parallel dimensions would represent an infinite library of information available for solving any conceivable challenge. The economic implications stretch beyond conventional understanding. If resources exist across multiple dimensions, scarcity becomes a dimensional rather than absolute limitation. Materials rare in our reality might be abundant in parallel dimensions, where different geological or cosmic processes occurred. Dimensional trade relationships could provide access to unlimited resources, while offering our dimensional specializations to parallel civilizations. However, dimensional manipulation technology also presents unprecedented dangers that could threaten the stability of existence itself. Uncontrolled dimensional interference might disrupt the barriers separating parallel realities, creating cascade effects that merge incompatible dimensional frameworks. The resulting chaos could destroy multiple realities simultaneously while creating hybrid dimensions where conflicting physical laws produce catastrophic instabilities. Military applications of dimensional technology could enable weapons systems that bypass conventional defenses by attacking through parallel dimensional pathways. Dimensional warfare might involve manipulating parallel versions of enemy civilizations, creating temporal paradoxes that retroactively prevent opponent development, or accessing alternative timelines where different military technologies provide decisive advantages. The ethical questions surrounding parallel dimensional access challenge fundamental assumptions about individual rights, collective responsibility, and the nature of harm itself. If actions in our dimension affect parallel versions of the same individuals, then conventional ethics must expand to address consequences spanning multiple realities. The concept of informed consent becomes problematic when individuals cannot be aware of effects extending across dimensional boundaries they cannot perceive. Religious and philosophical implications force reconsideration of traditional concepts about divine purpose, cosmic justice, and ultimate meaning. If parallel dimensions contain alternative versions of religious history where different spiritual developments occurred, then absolute religious truth becomes relative to dimensional perspective. The diversity of spiritual experiences across parallel realities might indicate that ultimate truth encompasses all dimensional variations, rather than favoring single perspectives. The detection and study of parallel dimensions continues advancing through increasingly sophisticated experimental techniques. Particle accelerators probe energy levels where dimensional barriers might weaken, searching for evidence of particle exchange between parallel realities. Advanced telescopes monitor cosmic phenomena for signatures indicating dimensional interaction, while quantum experiments test theoretical predictions about parallel dimensional behavior. Each new discovery adds weight to the mounting evidence that reality extends far beyond our current perception. The universe reveals itself as stranger and more complex than any previous scientific framework anticipated. Parallel dimensions emerge not as speculative fiction, but as logical conclusions drawn from rigorous observation and mathematical analysis of phenomena that conventional physics cannot adequately explain. We stand at the threshold of discoveries that could transform human understanding of existence itself, revealing that the reality we inhabit represents just one thread in an infinite tapestry of parallel experiences unfolding simultaneously across dimensions beyond our current ability to perceive or comprehend. The intersection of technology and dimensional research has produced startling developments that suggest our universe operates according to principles far more exotic than mainstream science acknowledges. Laboratory experiments conducted at leading research institutions have documented phenomena that violate fundamental assumptions about the nature of space, time, and matter itself. These discoveries point toward technological applications that could harness dimensional interactions for practical purposes. Electromagnetic field generators operating at specific frequencies have produced localized distortions in spacetime that resemble dimensional tears. When powerful electromagnetic coils create precisely tuned field interactions, researchers observe zones where physical laws appear to function differently. Objects placed within these zones exhibit behavior that defies conventional physics, including spontaneous levitation, molecular transmutation, and apparent violations of conservation laws. The electromagnetic approach to dimensional manipulation builds on theoretical frameworks suggesting that dimensional boundaries exist as electromagnetic field structures rather than physical barriers. By generating field patterns that resonate with these dimensional boundaries, technology might create controlled access points between parallel realities. The electromagnetic signatures of these dimensional interfaces match theoretical predictions with remarkable accuracy. Military research facilities have reportedly achieved breakthrough results using classified electromagnetic dimensional manipulation systems. Internal documents describe successful transportation of materials across dimensional boundaries using field generators that create temporary portals between parallel realities. These systems allegedly demonstrate controlled dimensional access that operates reliably under laboratory conditions. The electromagnetic dimensional technology raises profound questions about the fundamental nature of physical reality. If electromagnetic fields can manipulate dimensional boundaries, then the distinction between different realities becomes a matter of frequency rather than absolute separation. Our universe might represent just one electromagnetic frequency band among countless others, all occupying the same cosmic space but vibrating at different rates. Advanced mathematical models developed to describe electromagnetic dimensional interactions predict specific experimental results that match observed phenomena. Computer simulations of field interactions show how precisely tuned electromagnetic patterns could create stable dimensional interfaces capable of transferring matter and energy between parallel realities. These mathematical frameworks provide testable predictions that experimental research continues to verify. The consciousness dimension connection reveals even more disturbing implications about the nature of human awareness and its relationship to parallel realities. Neurological research has documented brain activity patterns that suggest consciousness naturally operates across multiple dimensional states simultaneously. The human brain appears to process information from sources that exist beyond conventional three-dimensional space. Studies of individuals experiencing altered states of consciousness reveal neural activity signatures that match theoretical predictions for dimensional awareness. During deep meditation, near-death experiences, or profound psychological trauma, brain imaging shows connectivity patterns resembling quantum entanglement rather than classical neural processing. These unusual brainwave signatures could indicate direct interface with parallel dimensional information sources. The consciousness research extends beyond individual cases to examine collective dimensional awareness phenomena. Groups of people experiencing shared altered states sometimes report identical visions of alternative realities that contain historically accurate information unavailable through conventional sources. These collective dimensional experiences suggest that human consciousness can access parallel realities under specific conditions that weaken normal dimensional barriers. Advanced neuroscience experiments have attempted to replicate dimensional consciousness access under controlled laboratory conditions. Researchers use electromagnetic field generators, sensory deprivation chambers, and pharmaceutical interventions to induce altered states where subjects report contact with parallel dimensional versions of themselves. The information obtained during these experiments often proves accurate when verified against historical records or future developments. The implications for human potential development are staggering. If consciousness naturally spans multiple dimensions, then current human awareness represents only a fraction of our actual cognitive capabilities. Training programs designed to enhance dimensional consciousness access could unlock mental abilities that seem impossible according to conventional neuroscience. Enhanced memory, precognitive awareness, and telepathic communication might represent natural human capabilities that dimensional training could develop systematically. If you learned something from this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with a friend. Don't keep these discoveries as a secret to yourself. These 10 parallel dimensions represent more than theoretical possibilities hiding in mathematics textbooks and research laboratories. They're evidence of a reality far more complex and mysterious than our everyday experience suggests. From cosmic inflation bubbles containing universes with backwards time to quantum entanglement connecting particles across impossible distances, the universe keeps revealing secrets that point beyond the boundaries of conventional three-dimensional existence. The universe has revealed itself as stranger, more interconnected, and more mysterious than any previous generation could have imagined. These parallel dimensions remind us that reality operates according to principles we're only beginning to understand, and that the cosmos we inhabit represents just one thread in an infinite tapestry of existence, unfolding simultaneously across dimensions beyond our current ability to perceive or comprehend. Until next time, when we find out how.